Diana,
Christine,
what's the most disgusting thing you've ever eaten?
I'm not proud of this.
Oh, no.
But when I was in college, we didn't have plastic wrap or plastic bags.
Like, you just didn't have them in your apartment.
We just didn't have them. We
Okay.
didn't actively buy things.
Yes.
So I would actually put leftover pizza in a garbage bag and wrap it up. Not even in the box, in the actual garbage bag.
Yeah.
And put it in my refrigerator and eat it later.
I hope it wasn't one of those, like, scented.
Oh, no, it occurred. It all dawned on me later. I was like, oh, my God.
You're just, like, made of microplastics
What?
now.
Oh, I absolutely am. I think I'm a superhero. This is From the Ground Up. Welcome to Season 4. I'm Inc. Executive Editor Diana Ransom.
And I'm Editor-at-Large Christine Lagorio-Chafkin. Today's episode, A Sweet Second Act. So Diana, a couple of weeks ago, I spoke with the founder of Jeni's Splendid ice cream, Jeni Britton. She is a super impressive founder. Jeni's is, if you don't know it, it's a certified B Corp, known for its social and environmental mission, but it also has close to 100 scoop shops all over the country. It's in grocery stores, and the thing that kind of differentiates Jeni's ice cream is its unique flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's one with, I believe it's goat cheese and a berry, and so there's these interesting flavor combinations. They're kind of wholesome and new at the same time. So talking with her was super interesting because she built this company for like 20 years and then stepped away.
Wow.
And she learned a few things during that time that we are going to get into in our conversation. But I wanted to tell you she has launched a new company that also makes a sweet snack. It also has unique flavor combinations.
Okay.
But it's totally different. The main ingredients in its new product are watermelon rinds, apple cores, and peels of otherwise used fruits and vegetables.
Oh, sounds delicious.
It is. Jeni was in our office when she was here. Did you try her new product?
I did try it.
Yeah.
I thought they were pretty good. So they're what's called fruit leathers.
Yeah.
Which was a new term for me.
Oh,
even though I
really?
give my kids this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's called a fruit leather. It's not you don't wear it, you eat it. It's like a fruit roll-up.
Right, but natural.
But like
made
natural,
of real
healthy.
fruit. Right. Like if your parents like dehydrated fruits when you were a kid, you're kind of familiar with that. But I found her product, which is called Floura, I found it more squishy than a fruit leather. It was like, it had an interesting texture.
Yeah, it's sort of like a granola bar meets, I guess, fruit roll-up.
Yeah.
She's probably going to use that in her marketing tagline. Anyway, so Floura, it's very exciting and so odd. She went from ice cream to fruit.
Yes, and fiber and gut health. Yeah.
Love it. And it seems odd. Why did she do this?
Well, she is going to explain that in this interview. I'll leave it for our conversation. But first, we started talking about the year that she left Jeni's ice cream, which she had been building for 20 years.
Oh, 26
Oh,
years.
my
I mean,
gosh.
forever
So,
and
yes,
ever.
at that
Really.
point. Right,
I mean,
right.
from my early days in the farmer's market, my first company, my first little ice cream company. I mean, it was and really starting it and building it from just, I always say, nobody starts from nothing. You always have your brain, your brawn, and your buddies. And that's what I started from.
Yeah.
So by the time I was at, it was like 2019, 2020, turning over into 2020. And I was just completely shredded. And I'd had an incredible coach and business advisor while I was working at Jeni's, Mark, and also Adrian, who are now my business partners. And they started kind of helping me with just physical health. So I had already been sort of working on all sorts of other sort of leadership coaching and things like that. But I started getting into physical health after I was able to step away from Jeni's and really I walked in the forest every day. That was just like where I knew to go because I grew up doing that. For whatever reason, I started eating blueberries and like pints and pints of them a day. Like 3 or 4 pints a day.
That's good antioxidants, right?
It is, and it's also incredible pectin, prebiotic fiber. I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I look back and credit those two things, walking in the forest and eating blueberries, with being this sort of spark that helped me understand, like for the first time in my life, what health started to feel like, what it felt like to actually be healthy. I was also getting rid of cortisol in my system and adrenaline in my system, a lot of adrenaline. I started working with veterans. I started driving on the track. I started doing other things to help me sort of soak up the adrenaline that I had just had extra in my body. from being just driving forward so hard. But that was when I started to read then about fiber and what's going on. And my partner, Mark, my business partner, now he was my coach at the time, we agreed just to keep working together because we like working together.
Yeah.
And he started sending me books about the microbiome, about fiber. And I started to understand what was then happening in my body. So then it starts to connect, just like I just started reading about it. I couldn't get enough learning about it because I was feeling it at the same time too.
So interesting. So just to back up a little, like when you say fiber, that's sort of synonymous with prebiotic, right? Which we're hearing a lot about in new products, new beverages, whatever. And that's different than probiotic, which is sort of like the actual like gut bacteria. Like there's two different kind of gut bacteria,
That's
right? And fiber really is the prebiotic, and that helps kind of lay the groundwork, right, for a healthy gut.
I think a lot of people confuse, and I did too. I didn't understand this at all either. But prebiotics and probiotics are very different. Prebiotics are the food that feeds probiotics. Probiotics are the microbes that live in your gut and really all over your body. And you want to feed them with prebiotic fiber, which is non-digestible fiber. It survives the stomach, goes to the other side, which is where most of your microbiome lives. And then if you feed your microbiome the right stuff, it will flourish. And you can really think of it, the way I think of it is like code. It's actually like a language. It's the way of speaking with your cells. So when you eat diverse fibers every day, you're actually coding, you're giving information and instructions to the microbes that live inside of you, which then in turn give that to the cells that make you. It's so far reaching.
Okay, got it. So you just kind of underwent this like massive health transformation. How did you just felt better? You were like, okay,
well,
I've eliminated some stress. I've got more fiber. I'm walking in the woods.
Yes, and fairly quickly, people started to notice. Like on Instagram, people in my realm, in my world, they started to notice. And I was just getting tons of comments like, what are you doing? And all I was doing was walking in the woods. Some days I was walking 10 miles, but every day I was out walking whatever I could and just making sure I got enough fiber.
So neat. Okay, I want to pause here and note something that you had said, which is that your business coaches kind of also became your health coaches. Like, how did that happen? I'm very familiar with the kind of intersection of therapy and business coaching in Silicon Valley. It sounds like your coaches were maybe even more than that.
Well, I also I brought in the cavalry. I mean, I put people around me, and I do this a lot. Like, if I don't understand something, I like the idea of coaching. I mean, we have at Floura, we have a science coach. So when we don't understand something, we can't read these incredible scientific papers, we can have her kind of sum it up for us.
Yeah.
But the same was true at Jeni's. A founder has a different perspective than any other executive. In fact, we are not executives on our teams as much as we would like to be considered another member of the team, or that's kind of how I approached it. You never will be. When you walk into a room, you carry a certain power that you won't. It's actually sometimes very difficult to understand. And the feedback that you get from your people is going to be different because you can't be fired, not in the same way. You have to be really aware of that. That was actually hard for me at Jeni's to understand that because I wanted to be the one who would always clean out the drain or do the worst job, whatever,
All right.
But
instead,
it
you
makes
have
people uncomfortable.
This authority.
You do.
This
originator
authority. Yeah.
So I had a coach that helped me understand that, and he's really good at working with founders. So it's almost like when you're looking for a coach, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you want somebody who understands there's executive coaching, but then there's also founder coaching. And that's a different thing. And founders, we have way different challenges. Of course, there's how we carry our power, but there's also how we hold on to health, how we nurture ourselves, which, as I mentioned, we often don't. Which doesn't set a good example for anybody, and it certainly isn't good for you.
And when you stepped back from Jeni's, not entirely, of course, but like when you took that step, like I'm going to focus on my health. Was that intentional? Like was health part of it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I just knew, and the COVID was hitting, and I just knew, I could see that the team was doing so well, and they're so good at it. And in fact, when I would come in, it would almost be disruptive, as founders tend to do too. And I just knew it was time. It just felt like the right time. And so it wasn't intentional. And certainly I did not even realize how unhealthy I was. And when I look at photographs of me then, I'm just like swollen, like my face is bigger. Like you can tell that I'm probably stressed out and not healthy. I don't glow. I don't have a sort of radiance or whatever that I just do now, I think.
I feel like that passion and that drive, and as you said, that stress, day to day for an entrepreneur, it often does, it does help mask.
I mean, I always said, I'm good at being a warrior. Like, I'm good at the hard stuff. And I am proud of that. But at the same time, I don't think we have to be warriors all the time. You know what I mean? I think we have to find, now that I'm sort of have another business and I see that there's another way to do it too.
Yeah. Okay. So you're taking this health breather. You're learning, you're absorbing, you're actually improving many aspects of your own personal health. Why? Why start another business now? Why throw yourself back into that role and that fire?
In some ways, the answer to that question, and I don't think I've answered it for anybody yet, but the real answer is it's the only thing I know how to do.
Yeah.
It's the only way I know how to impact the world. It's just what I know. I didn't really intend to start this business. It was more of an exploration in my own world. And I think this is the way a lot of businesses start. I mean, Jeni started because I was looking for community. I was looking for my people. And I started an ice cream company. And I found them. And we built that world. And this started because I became enamored of this idea of what it feels like to be healthy. And I had never felt it before. In my late 40s, to feel better than I ever have in my entire life was really spectacular. And I think a lot of people in America can relate to that, even if they're not a founder or an entrepreneur and haven't lived that life that I have, because we really don't prioritize health in our country in a way that's actually doable for people, for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. I read something about watermelon rinds.
It's our hero, yes.
Part of your journey and your research. Tell me about watermelon rinds.
Well, first at the Jeni's Kitchen, we make a watermelon like every couple of years in the summer.
Okay.
We have a couple of different flavors that are so delightful. And so I have a lot of experience cutting watermelon.
Okay.
You know, with a giant knife, cutting off the edge of the watermelon.
That sounds kind of exhilarating.
It is. It's really fun. And of course, as the company grew, you know, we had to do this more and more. And we just had so many watermelon in the kitchen. And what's so cool about working in the ice cream kitchen, the way that we do it at Jeni's, is that every season the smells and the scents in the kitchen change. So you go from like pumpkins and this warm scent or caramel, and then you go into baked goods in the winter, and then you go into like, you know, your mints and watermelons and berries in the summer. And so watermelon has that scent that carries everywhere. So it's a very fond and very potent memory. But we also had our compost out back from I call it the kitchen. It was like our sort of small production plant. And putting those watermelon rinds out there and composting was just a memory that I had, a very fond one. And we also had these beautiful watermelons that were grown for us in Ohio, in our farms in Ohio. And so when I was sort of reading all this stuff and looking up, I subscribe to this app called Academia. It's where I can get all these academic articles. And I have searches for fiber and prebiotic fiber. And one of the things that showed up in one of these searches was watermelon rind. And that watermelon rind is really filled with L-citrulline, which is really good for you, and also cellulose and some other items which are prebiotic fiber. And so I thought, oh my gosh, we've been like composting all this, and there's all this watermelon rind in the world. Then I started looking at how much watermelon rind there is in the world, which there is a lot, because 65% of the watermelon is actually the rind. And
that's like a lot of the weight, right?
Yeah. I don't know if your grandmothers or great-grandmothers did this, but mine did. They would pickle watermelon rind. And, you know, I just was like, everybody, you know, our grandmothers or great-grandmothers, they had so much knowledge that we've lost so quickly, that took so long to build and was just passed down for so many thousands of years. And we've just lost it rapidly. And watermelon rind is one of those things. So Mark and I, we like to work with other entrepreneurs, just casually, just helping other entrepreneurs as they need it. And we were working with an entrepreneur who needed a produce company bigger than the farmer's market. And we toured this massive facility and then saw the watermelon rind going out. And they were cutting it off, the watermelon rind, just like we did at Jeni's with their machete, because you can't put it through a machine. So by the thousands every day, they're just cutting these watermelon. And then the rinds were going off and to be churned into the land. And that got me thinking, like, there's just so much of this. I wonder if we can actually do something with it that would be beneficial because it's good for you. So that's like my ice cream brain started saying, like, it's easy to make ice cream taste good, but can we do this with watermelon rind? You know?
How do you make it taste good? What does it taste like?
It actually tastes like cucumbers.
Okay.
So it's actually really good. It's very simple. The problem is when you're eating the watermelon, the pink part is so sweet and so beautiful. And then you get to the cucumber part and it's like, it seems really boring. So we don't eat it. But it's very good for you. If you're eating watermelon, keep eating. In fact, my business partner, Mark, was living in LA. And his son had just gone to school. And so he was able to like literally pack up and move within several weeks to New Jersey and start this little lab that we started inside the produce processing company. And we just started asking questions. We wild ferment the watermelon rind.
Oh, neat.
Learned how to do that. And then dehydrate it, mill it into like a flour that we can then use to make anything.
Oh, neat.
So that's where it all started, was this watermelon rind.
And that's like a base for the new bar product.
It's one of the several ingredients that we use. We also now are using the apple cores to make apple paste, which is actually the base.
Oh, neat.
Of the bar.
Sure.
So the apple cores also are high in pectin, which is another prebiotic fiber. Really, really, really good for you. The seed chambers. Mm-hmm. We take the seeds out, but those are really filled with really great fiber for you. So we make that into an apple paste, like a really thin applesauce, and then thicken that, and then that's the actual base for the bar. And then we add our other prebiotic fibers from watermelon rind, but also cantaloupe, honeydew, pineapple, which has this other enzymes and other cool stuff in it.
Yeah.
Just all these micronutrients in these ingredients. And mango skins.
Oh, neat. Neat. Okay, so at what point does this experimentation and this working inside the lab and all this scientific research that you've been doing, at what point does it start to become a company in your mind?
We're thinking in this sort of web way. You know, it's sort of like, okay, what are our resources here? What do we have here? What's going on here? And how do we keep everything connected? How do we connect all the dots for people? So we know that we've got watermelon rind. We know we've got all these incredible prebiotic fibers in a lot of different ingredients. We know we have an incredible partner in the produce company with extraordinary reach. It's 600,000 square feet. It's a family-owned company with incredible values, which is something I noticed right off the bat first. So we share values. They're making all the cut produce for some of the best grocery stores like Whole Foods and the salads at Trader Joe's and all these, these really incredible grocery stores across the country. They've got reach and distribution. So we've got all of this like stuff that's kind of brewing. Like, well, if we can do this inside of here, we can get this out and we can actually expand pretty quickly. So it becomes a business idea pretty quickly, but we weren't sure what we were going to make. So we had to figure that out.
Yeah. Like it seemed like a viable business before it even had a product.
Yeah. Well, we had to decide, are we going to be a fiber company that sells ingredients or are we going to be a fiber company that makes a product that sells it? And we could do both, but we can only do one at a time.
Yeah.
And so we started with a pancake mix, which was fantastic. It's like become kind of a cult favorite already in our small community that we built. The chocolate cake mix is extraordinary. It could be at the best restaurant in the world and you would love it. It's incredible. But we realized like people aren't eating pancakes and chocolate every day. We need something that people can eat every day. What I would say that the company wants you to eat, us as a brand, as a company of human beings, we want you to eat fresh fruits and vegetables and 30 plants a week. When you can't, which I think is really hard, even for me and for people who are very conscious about that, Floura is making our products for you to eat and fill that fiber gap. And so we wanted to make something that people could reach for easily to get their plant diversity. Each bar has 12 plants out of the 30 that you need every week, and then also bridge the fiber gap. So it's 50% of the fiber you need every day.
Wow.
And 97% of men, 95% of women are deficient in fiber by at least 50%. It's a really huge gap.
Sure. And it's a shelf-stable bar?
Yeah, it is.
Wow. So you start thinking, okay, bar, and then your mind also, I assume this came from you because I've read the list of new flavors that you're creating with this bar, and they seem to have the same kind of interesting mixes and like kind of like wholesome zing that many Jeni's flavors have that almost make me think of the ice cream. Tell me about the flavor designs and profiles you're working with.
We're definitely thinking differently about our company, but that's inherent in just who I am and who we are. We're creating a bar company where we can actually make some fun flavors, some really beautiful flavors, and flavors that actually taste like real food. So all of our flavors are whole foods. I mean, we have a brambleberry lavender, which of course is inspired by our ice cream. We have one like our most popular flavor. One of them is the brambleberry crisp, which is a vanilla ice cream with a brambleberry sauce in it. So we're working with the fruits that my grandmother always called brambleberries, which are just the fruits, the little like berries that grow on brambles or a thorny bush.
Like little black raspberries or like?
Black raspberries, red raspberries, black currants. And then lavender for that one. So it's almost like combining two different ice creams. And then we have a raspberry rose, which Jeni's does a raspberry rose jelly donut, or we've done. But, here we're just kind of doing this raspberry rose. We have mango cardamom, which Jeni's has done many, many times as a yogurt. Vanilla rooibos, which is actually my favorite tea that I drink every day. I have for years and years. I love it. And then blueberry matcha, which is another sweet, beautiful flavor. All of these could be ice cream.
They could be.
And many of them have been.
Interesting.
And we have, even though we're a bar company, because we are making everything ourselves and we can make small runs, we can do new fun flavors. So we'll be doing this sort of like Jeni's does, in that if we want you to be eating these regularly, we want to keep you interested. So we'll have new flavors coming out and limited editions, of course, just like Jeni's.
Yeah. When I think of bars in the grocery store, I think of like a utilitarian kind of thing, like like a kind bar with chocolate on it is delicious. But when I'm buying that, I'm just kind of feeding, I'm just hungry, and it should be
trying to do something good.
Relatively healthy. It should be good. You're entering a really interesting market and have a kind of different vision for it. The bar market, though, is complicated. What kind of thinking are you approaching the market with in terms of where you fit in and the kind of, perhaps the kind of education you may have to do in terms of appealing to customers?
I mean, it's a lot. It's a very big market. It's a very crowded market, but so is ice cream.
Yeah.
And ice cream is just so incredibly complicated. And I think that when you speak directly to people and you build a community of, a lot of people talk about this, but this is what we did from the farmers market days, just one person at a time. I think building a business is one person at a time. It's a street game. When you do it that way and you know your customers and you build alongside them, you just carve out your space. You carve your own space out. And that's what we're doing. We already look very different from every other bar out there. We'll be behaving differently because that's how we do it. And I think we'll bring people along with us and grow our people. And I think that'll be important. And of course, flavor is going to be a differentiator. And then, I just think that people are turning to these kinds of snack foods more and more now. And there's research that shows, there's data that shows that with the rise of the GLP-1s, of course, we have this need for nutrition-dense foods. And that's exactly what Floura is. But also, we're not eating at home anymore. I mean, it's like, 60% or something of our meals are eaten outside of the home. They're eaten kind of in transit. And, we're eating one meal at home now. It's just a very different era, and it's moving very quickly. And so we don't think that you're going to go back to this, 3 meal a day kind of at home thing. I think we need to be thinking about nutrient-dense, whole foods, really good stuff. And I do think that we're in a time where the conversation of the industrial food system has real potential to make real change, and we need that.
Absolutely. I mean, every day there's new headlines on ultra-processed food and which ones are, which ones aren't, how to avoid them, what the actual,
It's so difficult to be a consumer. I would say that one of the questions I asked early on in my health journey was, why is it so hard to be healthy in America? It is hard for even somebody who knows and has resources how to do it. And it's hard for every person in this country to know what the right answer is. Even for people who are health gurus, they've all got a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult for regular people to just be like, well, what is healthy? It turns out it's not
and there's
as
so
complex.
much misinformation out there. And
so
it's
much
just
money to be made.
Absolutely.
On that misinformation. I will say.
Wait, can we stop here for a minute?
Kind of interesting at Floura, it feels like.
You're obviously speaking with Jeni about her experience, and I just want to dig into something for a minute. So the idea is that even if she was super successful as an ice cream entrepreneur, it didn't really help her when she was entering into, I'm sure it helped her to some degree, but it didn't really in the end end up helping her when she's starting this brand new business, right?
Yeah. I mean, she is just starting out right now. She had just in January had the first bars go onto one grocery store shelf, and then she's going from there. So she told me that she knows this is going to be hard work building this new brand, finding customers, finding locations, getting sales at a velocity that stores are comfortable keeping this new product in. It is carving out a new space in health food bars.
Right. I mean, I guess if you were to sort of step back for a second, the thing that she does carry with her from Jeni's Ice Cream to Floura is this idea of fearlessness. Like, you've been there, you've done it, you can, scale the mountain and look out, and you can overcome major odds.
Right. I mean, I'm sure she knows a thing or two about grocery distribution, right? And she did, meet folks in the plant in New Jersey that were using were cutting up fruit, and where she found the fruit processor and experimented with uses of some of the otherwise discarded parts of fruit. So she had connections, she has knowledge, and she also knows how hard it's going to be, which I think might be, that last part might be the most crucial.
Absolutely. So what do you all talk about next?
We continued our conversation about taking risks and the trials and tribulations that would come.
Great. Can't wait to hear it.
So that said, did anything daunt you about starting over and starting over in a new portion of the food industry?
You know, I will say, and I think other entrepreneurs will, who are listening, this would resonate. I think it took me a while to really click with the business idea. I was interested in it. I was curious about this idea of fiber, what we could do, what my input could be. But once it clicks, and for me, it was like all of the elements of the puzzle kind of clicked together with the produce company, with their reach, with the capabilities inside, with the flavors, with the research that we were having, kind of white papers written for us. All of it kind of clicked together and fit. And then also my role within that. And when it clicks, you don't ask that question anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's not whether I want to do this or not. It's just you're on the train and you're going. It's a funny thing. You click and you just go. You're going.
How do you know? I mean, like, is there a click? Like, there's not a real click. Is it that it's just you're thinking about it every day? What's the change?
I think a lot of entrepreneurs think like this too. For me, sometimes when I click into a vision, it's actually very much in my body. It almost appears to me or feels to me like it's already happened, like it's in the past. Once I can click into a vision to the point where I can see it and I almost feel it like it's already happened, then I have to pursue it. And it's almost like you go into autopilot, like you're no longer in control. You're going to make it work.
And it's with you. It's already part of you.
It's part of you.
You believe in it.
And no matter what happens, you will survive and you'll make it work. So we have such few resources at Floura and any, startup, any small company. And whatever happens, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. So what's been easier the second time around? Like, what did you come armed with in creating this new company that you were just like, here's how we do this, here's how we do that?
Many things are easier. One thing is, I think, just this idea that I had of at Jeni's, which is this idea of fellowship and just making sure that the right people are around me and we're all together and that together we make something greater than some of our parts. And so that is something that we were really focused on at Floura from the beginning, that there's just the right people. And it's kind of interesting at Floura, it feels like the right people keep just kind of floating into our world. And then we latch onto them, grab onto them, and we don't let them go. And they just come in and we do the work. I would say from a sort of tactical point of view, one thing that we weren't able to do at Jeni's was kind of engineer our ice creams, which we easily could have done for grocery and for that sort of distribution chain, which we didn't get to do because we just frankly didn't know that we should do that. And so we were taking basically farmers market bespoke ice creams and selling them through distribution into the grocery stores. And so some of those were coming out at like $15 a pint, and it really wasn't a sustainable business. So it took us a long time to learn how to adapt this grocery or this sort of farmers market style with grocery store distribution. And if we had done that from the beginning, there are ways we can do it in this really beautiful way. Different kinds of flavors, like
sure,
maybe we're not making the most bespoke hand-done one for the grocery store,
right.
But we're still using the same quality of ingredients and the same recipes. It's just the ones that we choose. At Floura, just being really conscious of what do we want this to cost so that we can make sure that the most people can afford it that can. And that has been something we did from the very beginning, is to think about, like, we got to make sure that we can be in distribution for this price so that we can be on shelf at this price and that most people can afford it. And then go down from there if we can.
Yeah, so be savvy about the market and the price point from the beginning. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of money, you're coming from a place where I would guess having 80 plus ice cream shops around the country, you probably didn't need to do a Kickstarter. You probably could get seed funding from elsewhere or yourself, but you did a Kickstarter. What was the drive there?
I was curious about a lot of things. First of all, it's really hard to know what prebiotic fiber is or that fiber is really good for you. And we're talking about this was a year ago. And so years are going quickly when it comes to like information, as we know. But a year ago, people know more now than they did a year ago. But even now, people don't know what prebiotic fiber is and the benefits of that. So I was curious, like what people knew, what that, I needed to learn that before I could go out and try to raise money. And then I was also really, really interested in whether people would follow me. I had been in this ice cream world for 26 years. People knew me as the ice cream person. And was I going to be able to change people, to get people to follow me into like fiber, the world of fiber? Like, what's that? What I found was, yes, no problem. They are, and they do. And in fact, my Instagram for the last several years has all been about my version of what health and well-being looks like, which is very much centered around pleasure and sensuality and like being in the forest and nature inside and out. And it's a different kind of well-being. And so that was pretty easy, getting people to come on board. And then what happened through that Kickstarter is that we built this community of about 1,000 people that we could then ask questions. And so they became our test market, which was incredible. We learned everything from that. So over the last year, we learned what people know about prebiotics. We learned what people want from the nutrition panel, what flavors work and what don't. It was actually a really important part of our journey.
Yeah. What was one specific thing you learned from that early customer testing?
That people don't want to be sold health. We see it all the time on Instagram, these super health gurus who have they go to the sort of GNCs of the world, and that's all great. And we follow them, and we go there sometimes or whatever when we're really in the mood. But for the most part, most people just want something that tastes good, that they believe is good for you. So on the front of the package, our sort of sample packaging was like too much about prebiotic fiber, and that just kind of fell flat a little bit for a lot of people. Not everybody, but like I think we really want to hit like mainstream. Yeah, that was interesting. So it really was going to be about more like fun, flavor, and yes, it's going to tick all the boxes for health.
Yeah, that's so interesting because like if you think about purchasing habits, like there's buying something for yourself and then there's buying something for your family too. Like if I'm at a store, I might just buy a health product for myself, but I've got 3 kids also who need a snack after school, and then you're going to get 4 times the purchase from me if it looks fun and like
I think what we want
yummy.
is to believe that it's good for us.
Yeah.
But we want to be sold on flavor and brand and fun and community and these other things. And so you don't want to be like sort of preached to is really the way that I would put it. We don't want to be, out doing that. So we'll have all of the education. Our NutriFacts and our ingredient list lives up to the highest levels of nutrition and the highest standards of functional medicine and functional foods. But you can find that information on our website. You can find it anywhere. But our packaging is just going to be beautiful. And this is a lot like Jeni's, actually.
Sure.
We do so many things behind the scenes, whether it's how we are working with our farms or, direct trade. And just we're a B Corp. So like you can go really deep on this behind the scenes at Jeni's, but we almost never talk about it out front because we know you're here to get to know somebody else better, to enjoy the ice creams, to have a moment. And we're not trying to like preach to you.
Yeah, but then a customer can go as deep as they want in their relationship with the brand.
And what I always say is it's hope confirming. I hope that Jeni's is a company that does the right thing. And then you go look into it, and I hope that we are too. I think we are. I think that's the same kind of the way that we're thinking about Floura.
That's fantastic. So tell me about your marketing strategy you just launched.
We just launched. We will be direct to consumer through our website. Of course, we're going to be talking on social media and all of that stuff and trying to continue to build our community in that way. And so begins our journey into retail.
Yeah.
And just like Jeni's, I think it'll go a little faster because we know what we're doing a little bit better now. But, anybody who's built a company in retail knows, and in grocery knows that it's quite an effort. And what's great about Floura is it's really our only effort. I mean, at Jeni's, we have our stores. We actually do all of our own graphic design in-house. We do production. We have, of course, our website. We have grocery. There are like multiple companies under one roof. And so here we will really be able to focus on our entire effort on velocity on shelf.
You're starting in small shops?
Yeah. Similar to Jeni's.
True. We, in this last year, we just at Inc. ran a big feature about how difficult it is for new CPG companies to kind of maintain their shelf space even after they break into a bigger store.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the game. And I think a lot of people don't realize, and it seems to me too, a lot of the venture funds don't also realize that just because you say it doesn't mean it will happen. And even if you do get on shelf, you have to be ready with your team to support that because the only thing that matters is velocity. So you're better off to start with a couple of small accounts and win there, learn how to do it, and then the world of retail will open up to you. Once you start to do well somewhere, that word travels. But if the opposite happens, it's a brutal, brutal industry. If you get placement somewhere and, you're not able to support it, you get dropped and then it's very hard to get back in.
Yeah.
So you've got to be very mindful of it. Luckily, I have a lot of this experience and I've made all the failures at Jeni's. So I know enough about it and enough about just really wanting to make sure we take care of our customers. I mean, Jeni's is all about our customers. at Floura, we are the same exact way.
Yeah, fantastic. Is it hard for you to grapple with that? Like talking to those customers face to face is not going to be quite as easy. They are not walking up to your counter asking for a scoop, right?
It's so true. I mean, I
Yeah.
think of it all the time because I spent 10 years at the counter before we ever started growing at Jeni's. It's my superhero understanding. That's why I know what people want in ice cream because I listen to that every day, hundreds of times a day from customers. But I find my way to do it at Floura because I really believe in being on the front line where your customers are. And I know that Jeni's is this way, but Floura is too, that we are in active co-creation with our customers. That even our brand that we've just launched this new brand, visual identity, even that will continue to evolve. And brands should evolve with our customers because we are a living, breathing organism of human beings that includes our customers. And as we need to morph and tweak, we will. And also as we get more resources like, for our website and so on.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll continue to build that out. We are really very scrappy.
Yeah. Great. And the name, how did you come up with it?
Honestly, the true answer is that I was in Pompeii in 2022 in the summer, and there was this gorgeous fresco of Floura the goddess. And you can Google it. She's beautiful. You've probably seen it before. It's this beautiful green fresco. Googled immediately, like Floura. Obviously, it means flowers, but like, what is she the goddess of? And she's the goddess of like blooming. And so I kind of took that a little stretch further to flourishing and this idea of flourishing. And so Floura is another word also for the microbes and that live inside of you and around us. And then I also added that sort of word flourishing, that idea that we want to be flourishing and that. So we added the U.
So it's Floura. Yeah.
And, of course, our goddesses and Mother Earth, I sort of think of fruit as like the gift of Mother Earth, of these goddesses. All fruit comes from flowers. And what a beautiful gift that is that we have and that we at Floura can then, sort of save from being churned into the landfill or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. You seem like the type of leader who is just constantly evolving and teaching themselves and has gotten a lot of coaching and sought expertise over the years. What is something that you have just left behind and left at Jeni's or left with your old style of working or management that you are trying to do differently in Floura? And I mean this like in an inside the company kind of way in terms of leadership or managing or building your team.
I think that's a beautiful question. I would say that I've been usually, even at Jeni's, especially in the earlier days, I was pretty good at not micromanaging people and sort of letting people learn their lessons the way that they need to learn them. Or, that's how we learn, is by making mistakes. And that's all beautiful and that's part of it. And you can't just step in and save everybody. But I would say that at Floura, I've really learned to let go of control in a big way. I've seen it not just at Jeni's, in my own self and in others, but in other places too. And I've been shown over many years that you kind of flow forward. You don't control forward. You sort of flow into it. And that's the best way I can describe it. You sort of do this with vision. It's almost like you're kind of like sculpting or kind of herding cats or whatever in a way. You're just kind of manipulating stuff and like everybody's kind of working together. The more you try to control everything, the less control you actually have, I think. And that is something I've learned from my own experience.
Yeah.
Every time I try to control what somebody else thinks or what's going on or whatever too deeply, I lose control of it.
What happens then if an employee or a group of employees has a different idea than you on how to do or what to do?
Well, that's fantastic. That's actually what you want. That's the whole reason we're together. I want people bringing in their ideas. We talk about it in almost always. I wouldn't say the right answer, but the one we want to try rises up. And then we agree and we go and do it. And if there's still a dispute, I think somebody has to do it, and I would make that decision. I'm never afraid, I would say, to be wrong about something. We just keep going. We're all wrong about something a lot, because we're a startup and we're just trying things. And the point is to adapt and to swerve. A to B is not straight and it's not even it's like a bowl of spaghetti. So you're just constantly trying to just keep going forward. Flowing forward together.
Yeah. As a company, do you have any interesting strategies there in terms of brainstorming or finding new ideas or decision making? Is there anything you kind of stick to and use as a group, as a tool, or as an idea or guiding philosophy?
We talk a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky because my business partner is also my coach. He's incredible.
Yeah.
And then my other business partner who's not day-to-day in the business is my other coach. And he's also incredible. I would say coach and advisor. And so I learn from them every day. I know Mark would say that he's also learning from me. And so it's really nice to just be able to have those open conversations. We admire each other, all of us. We respect each other. And that's so important, I feel like. And it's part of the fun. There's just a lot of admiration, I think, on this team.
Mm-hmm. So respect and admiration.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
We care. I mean, we want everybody to sort of have their best experience, I guess, and do this. I mean, we're all working really hard and we're all kind of going our own way and like coming together, and it's a little bit like chaos.
Yeah.
But it's also just so cool and so fun.
So chaos, but how else does it feel starting again? You just launched your second company. How is it right now for you as a second-time founder? Yeah.
It's interesting. I still feel like I'm like rubbing my eyes a little bit like, am I really here? I mean, we've been working on this for 2.5 years. It's not new for us, but we're just kind of stepping out into the sunlight. And it is kind of, it's so cool. It's like, wow, like I'm not used to it yet. But I'm also like, as I mentioned, just so locked into the vision. I know that there's a lot of opportunity in the food system right now and in how we eat and how we feed people and, of course, in sustainability. That creates passion.
What advice would you have for other women who are thinking of starting a company out there right now? In this year, 2025, so much has been said, but do you have any specific or general advice that does apply to women?
Well, I still think that you don't need very much to start a company.
Yeah.
That this is the promise of America, in my opinion, and that is that anybody here can start wherever they're at and build anything they can imagine. That was my experience with Jeni's. I didn't know much about anything. I certainly didn't have any resources. I didn't even have family to fall back on. I really was on my own early.
Yeah, you were working out of your kitchen, right?
I was working out of my kitchen. I mean, I just had really nothing. I lived that. I believe in it. I believe in this idea of starting small and building. And I believe that it's really important for women and people of color and to start these businesses. And it's something of a passion of mine to help people believe that they can do it, because we need people there's a lot of small businesses, we need more of them, but also some of these small businesses become big businesses. And those big businesses, the people who start those become the leaders of the future. And they get a lot of say in where this country goes. And I want to see that level of business leaders look like America. And so you can start where you're at and do it. It's not easy, but it is so fun. It really is so fun.
Fantastic.
It's a great life. It is. It's been my entire life, and I just love it so much.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jeni, for being here today and having this conversation with me.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun to be here.
So, Diana, do you remember how after our interview, Jeni kind of pulled us aside and told us how much Inc. magazine was a resource for her when she was starting her first business?
Absolutely. It was flattering to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it felt like this was like a nice 360 moment for her coming to our office and being on the podcast. But it kind of dawned on me that her first business went bankrupt, She spent years building, it was called Scream Ice Cream. And then she tried again. And that's when she hit Jeni's Splendid ice cream with the magical flavor. She built it out of her house. She was working 3 other jobs.
Oh my goodness.
She did it. Yeah. And so it's so cool to see her starting again now. By her own accord, she built this company that is still running. And now she's building another one.
From the ground up.
Yes, from the ground up, I guess. Yes. It's so cheesy, but, when life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. She's done it.
And she seems to be using the lemon peels now as well.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, truly.
All the fruit rinds.
She's pretty inspiring. I definitely enjoyed your interview with her and hearing more about her. And it's almost reassuring to hear about the struggles that she still has as an entrepreneur. It's sort of like validating for all the people who are doing it as well, who didn't actually have the connections that she has.
Right.
Good to hear that she's back at it. And, it's actually just that hard.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely.
Not to scare anyone away, but it is. Any big ideas for you that came out of it, or?
I think that starting over, inspiration can come from anywhere, right? And I loved when she was saying that she knew she kind of couldn't not do it. Like, it was just what she wanted to wake up and do every day. And I think that's, even for folks who aren't entrepreneurs, like, what drives you? What makes you want to do it? You just got to kind of follow your passions. That's all for this episode of From the Ground Up.
Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice. Also, if you like this episode or have suggestions of what topics you'd like to hear about, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or reach out to us on Inc.'s social channel.
From the Ground Up is produced by Blake Odom and Avery Miles. Editing by Matt Toder. Mix and sound design by Nicholas Torres. Our executive producer is Josh Christensen. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.